Llame ya.
Hi, I'm Vicki Wright Hamilton, and welcome to Ignite. Ready to spark your passion and fuel your leadership journey? This is where ambition meets action and transformation begins. Let's light that fire and keep it burning. In fact, today's episode I am so excited about. It is burning already. My guest today, Mr. Todd Wall. Now, you may have seen us on episodes before, but it is my honor and my pleasure to have an opportunity to interview him. His show on Communication Breakthrough, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's a great, great show. Welcome, Todd.
How are you doing, Vicki? As I always say, the world needs more Vicki. So I am so excited to be on this Ignite show because, hey, like the world doesn't have enough Vicki. We can't have partial Vicki. We need all full Vicki. That's what we need.
Well, thank you, Todd. I really appreciate that. And I love to have a friend on a show, so this is awesome. But I want our viewers to really understand when we talk about Ignite and talk about communication. I want them to understand what is this saying you have experts making experts in communication? Can you share that with the audience?
Absolutely. The concept initially that was the theme of a different show. But really, it's really a principle that I use in every day-to-day basis. Vicki, one of the biggest breakthroughs I experienced as a communicator was when I realized communication wasn't a one-way street. When I was an early, younger communicator, it was all about me. I said on my show recently, I said, if there was 5 mics on that stage, I wanted all 5. I wanted all that attention. I wanted everything to be about me and my ego and make sure I was getting all the props that people heard how great I was. And then I realized, life is a little bit bigger than that. And I recognized I wasn't making the change that I really actually desired to see. Because at the end of the day, it's the impact that you make that means everything. It doesn't matter if you're the loudest person in the room. It doesn't matter how much you actually talk. At the end of the day, it's what impact you actually made. So after I took my first certification to become a coach, that's where the real pivot and switch took place. When I learned communication was a dialogue and not a one-way street, it transformed everything. I went from being a straight, exclamation point of a speaker, and I still try to bring the proper punctuation with my voice, but instead of always being the exclamation point, I started becoming a question mark and offering rhetorical questions, offering incisive questions, so that, as one of my favorite authors, Nancy Klein, says, so I could create a thinking environment. I want the person I'm communicating with to not just be listening with their ears. I want that to sink down into their heart and into their very soul. So in order to do that, I need to bring them with me on a journey. It's not just, hey, come along with me. No, it's come beside me. And so what do you think on this? What are your thoughts on it? When I say this, what does it make you think? And so that was the biggest pivot on this, was first recognizing communication's not a one-way street. I need to bring people along. So I need to create a loop between me and that other person. I need to create, and really it's understanding that all communication is actually a dialogue. If I want to create change or persuasion or whatever it may be, I have to create a dialogue. Now, Here, so I'm a personal development director for a large marketing agency, and had a breakthrough not too long ago with a new account manager. She was new with engaging with clients, and so when these clients would come and say, "Oh, I don't like that color red," or "Why is this on the website shaped this way or that way?" It's weird. She started getting defensive, and maybe for good reason. She's defending her team, whatever. But that defensiveness is obviously a negative impact on the client. And so they brought me in to begin talking to her, and I posed the question. I said, "You're an expert at what you do, and and by the defensiveness, it becomes clear you're trying to defend the fact that you're an expert. What if we just assume that you are an expert at what you do? What if the other person, because they hired you, has already assumed that? What if you don't have to prove that?" That was the first thing. Now, what if the person on the other side of that phone call is also an expert at what they do? You have an idea of what their customer is, but they are experts at connecting to their customer. They know things about their customer that you will never know unless you start asking questions. Unless, here it goes, you start treating them also as an expert. And when you start treating the person on the other end as an expert, it's like Pandora's box opens up and rainbows, unicorns start flying out of everywhere, because it's like you'll discover things you never knew were possible. Let's say you are doing marketing and you're talking about the project or whatever widget this person is selling, and you describe it the best you possibly can. But if you don't know the end customer and what drives them, then it doesn't matter how pretty you make the product look. If you haven't connected to their emotions and what drives them to actually make a decision, then you're never going to get there. You're never going to find that out, though, unless you treat the other person you're talking to like an expert.
Todd, I love that. And the thing that I love about you talking about treating them as an expert is that there's a saying that I have that, there's a favorite radio station that everybody listens to, and we all have it. It's called WIIFM. What's in it for me? And if we begin to take that radio station as we're listening, and we're listening to that radio station as he's the expert, I'm the expert, and we all understand that we have something of value, and we begin to respect that, it really does help with that communication that you're talking about and engagement and making it happen. So I'd like to ask you a question, keeping those two dynamics together as we move forward. If I'm new at this and I'm just beginning, first of all, how do I begin to take these steps? We talk about active listening. What does that really look like in behavior when you say you want to hear? Can you give our audience a little bit of insights there?
Absolutely. So active listening is about being completely active in the process. So if I'm actively listening, then when you say something, I repeat it back to you. Did I hear that correctly? Communication is a loop. I want to keep that loop continually moving around. So, did I understand that correctly when you said X, Y, Z? And that gives them to say, "Oh, no, I meant 1, 2, 3." Oh, I am so glad I asked. You see the clarity that comes just by me repeating back what they said. And even Chris Voss, the great FBI negotiator, he says, even when someone's upset, if you could just repeat back the last 5 words that they said and just repeat that back to them, they feel heard and the tension goes down immediately. And so active listening in this process of just, are you actually active in the process? Or are you thinking about what you're going to say next? If you're thinking about what you're going to say next, no, you are no longer active in the process. Now, here's how we tie this together. And here's the easiest way, the way that I teach most of my clients is when I've actively listened, I've paraphrased back to them and we've kind of gone in circles. The way to bring them into the conversation is just as like physically holding a tennis ball and tossing it over to them. Whatever question you can offer that tosses that ball back over to them is how you bring them into the game. It's true in real life. If you want to play toss, you have to toss them the ball. If you don't toss them the ball, then they're not playing toss with you.
That's a great analogy as you talk about that. It's all around that seek to understand before being understood, as Stephen Covey would always say, one of my favorites. Because you really want to make sure that you're really understanding what the intent was. Did I hear you correctly? And I love your concept of confirm and clarify. One of the things that happens in communication is it tomato or tomato, and does it mean the same thing or something different, right? And I think that's where a lot of diversity in communication comes into play, because in some cultures, a word may mean one thing, and in another culture, it means something else. And we're totally misunderstanding what that means as we continue to move forward. So I love your concepts, and I'm going to remember toss that ball. I really like that. I love how you talk about, I got to catch the ball. I have to toss the ball, to make sure that we're really going back and forth in a conversation. I absolutely love that in terms of going forward. And I really appreciate those insights. Well, we're going to get ready to take a station break, but we're going to be back. And when we come back, we're going to explore even further, how do we continue to make communication an item for us to ignite our conversation when we're talking to someone else? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Are you on Medicaid and in need of bladder control and incontinence products? Then stay tuned for a free offer from Active Style. At Active Style, we understand your needs and offer convenient home delivery of incontinence products for children and adults. And they may be available at no cost to you if you're Medicaid eligible. Our products have a super absorbent core that locks away wetness to keep you dry.
If you're on Medicaid, call now for your free sample.
¿Tiene un carro, camioneta o SUV viejo en su casa? Aunque no funcione y piense que es chatarra, usted puede llamar al número en pantalla y donarlo a Susan G. Komen para ayudar a salvar una vida. Nuestro personal calificado va hasta su domicilio a recogerlo de forma totalmente gratis. La donación de su automóvil, camioneta o SUV viejo ayuda a apoyar a las personas afectadas por el cáncer de mama, así como también al trabajo vital de Komen en investigación, atención al paciente y educación. Necesitamos su ayuda. Tal vez considere que su auto viejo es chatarra o que no vale nada, pero ese auto no deseado es importante para que Susan G. Komen continúe ayudando a las personas con cáncer de mama. Llame al número en pantalla hoy. Iremos a recoger su auto rápidamente. También recibirá una deducción de impuestos por su donación caritativa. Ayúdenos a ayudar. Llame ya.
Hi, thank you so much for coming back to join us. As I said, I have my friend Todd Wall, who is an expert in talking about communication. If you didn't hear the first part of that segment, you really need to go back and watch this. He gave us some great insights as we were moving forward. So, Todd, I'd really like to ask you, one of the difficult things when you're talking in communication, you know, we have all of us that are like me, the extrovert, that got to learn how to shut up, right? Be quiet, to those techniques of writing down so that as you're thinking out loud, that you're writing it down so you can have active listening. But let's help those listeners that are introverts, where communication can be a little bit more difficult. Talk to us about what you do to help introverts in communication.
Absolutely. Introverts are dear to my heart because here's the thing that people don't believe. Just because when I've got a microphone in front of me, I do get loud and excited. But the reality is, I'm an introvert. Yeah, that's the big secret. So I am an introvert, but I learned techniques that allow me to come across as an extrovert, but I can only do it for short periods of time. My gas tank runs out very quickly, and when it's gone, it's gone. But I've learned specific tactics that enable me to really step out. Everything. I mean, the theme of communication breakthrough is intentional communication, and this is the crux of it right here. So that's become my cause, is helping introverts, because I believe the introvert thinks deeper in many cases than the extrovert does. We've got these spider senses to a room that is really feeling out a room, because we're like, one, we're paranoid about what everybody's thinking at every moment. And so we've got all this dialogue going on in our minds. And so, but with that deep level of thought, when the introvert can come into a character and block out those other elements, and they can even if they need to be someone else in that moment, they can feel free and they know how to operate. And here's the beauty, because that introvert will have rehearsed that moment 1,000 times before. And unlike an extrovert, they're going to go back and rewind their mental tape and watch it 1,000 times afterwards. So they're going to do all that deep work that makes them better. They just need a framework to operate in. The strength is the framework. And so that starts with, who are you going to be? Who are you going to show up as? Here was the transformative moment for me. I worked for the Dallas Cowboys. I was on the sidelines, and, those NFL games, they are, for the camera operators, they're aggressive. You're shoulder to shoulder with 10 other guys in many situations, trying to get to the same exact location, 10 yards past the ball, to where you have that right angle, that correct angle. And so you have to get aggressive, and you've got to be bigger than life in those moments. You can't be an introvert. You can't be a shadow. You have to step into that moment. And beyond that, there's a crowd of people around you that you also need to tell the story of. So when I worked for the Cowboys, this was a long time ago, and there was this new thing called Instagram. And on this new thing on Instagram, they said, we want to start using these things. No one really knows about them yet, but they're called hashtags. And so we want to hashtag Cowboys Nation. So we want y'all to create an Instagram account and then go on the sidelines and just shoot things, while you're working, shoot things on your phone and post it so we can populate this new hashtag. And I mean, one of my assignments was the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. That didn't hurt in terms of getting attention from my Instagram.
I bet.
But in order to do that, I had created a username account, and it was TV Toad. Todd is my name. My best friend from high school or from college called me Toad, and I'm like, TV Toad. Okay, well, yeah. And so TV Toad wasn't quiet. No. It turns out, as it happens, TV Toad had such a big personality, people would call his name from the stands, and he had a dance that he would do just to, and it had a lot of, I'm going to tell you straight up, it had a lot of stanky leg in it. That dance did. And he would do that. He would entertain the crowd while doing his thing.
Man after my own heart.
Absolutely. So that the vehicle of that character, though, that enabled me to be who I needed to be in that moment. I was working with a client not too long ago, and she said, before we started, she said, Todd, before we start, I need you to know I am clinically diagnosed with an anxiety disorder that says that I can't talk publicly. I said, okay, let's see what happens. And well, let's just say she became Oprah. And so, because Oprah was who she looked up to. And I said, and here's the great part. I gave her these mechanisms. I said, now, Oprah, because so now an introvert wants to just kind of talk real quiet and they just want to fade off into the shadows, right? So I said, now, Oprah, when she steps into that moment, it's like she's lifting a boulder over her head, and she tightens up her belly and she holds that boulder up, and she's pushing and she's holding her voice up and she's grabbing attention. And then when she's ready to make a point, then she lowers that down calmly so it doesn't sit on their feet. And so I was in a leadership meeting with this same client. And she was an accountant. So she liked the shadows, but she had to give her presentation. So she steps into they call on her, the Zoom goes on her screen, and she says, all right, everyone, today I would like to tell you, this is what we're going to talk about. My points are 1, 2, and 3. Are you guys ready? Does anybody have any questions before we start? No question. Fantastic. You'll see from this data point here, that tells us X, Y, Z. That's going to give us the opportunity. If we do this, then we can do this. Then she goes to the next data point. If we do this, then we do that. That's the other part of my framework, is if-then statements. And then she opens it up. Does anybody have, what additional questions can I clarify for you?
I absolutely love that. And what I will say is that as being an extrovert, we get labeled as bad people from the perspective of you all just talk. But let it be known that a lot of times, even as an extrovert, we're sitting and thinking about strategy, what has to be done, how we need to move forward, because we couldn't get out and do it if we didn't do that. So there is some form of that we're utilizing in terms of moving forward. Otherwise, we would never have complete thoughts. We would never be able to get out and articulate what it is that we want to do as we make it happen.
Just for the introvert, it becomes a debilitating factor. That's the different distinction. Yeah.
And that's interesting. But, one of the things I'm curious about is being an extrovert is I never want to offend an introvert. And I had instances in my life where I learned that not only am I an extrovert, but by personality, I'm very passionate because I'm a joyful person, right? I believe in positivity. I believe in encouragement. I believe in motivation from within,
Mhm.
encouraging others, serving others. But I'm passionate about that. And so a lot of times that passion on top of already being an extrovert can be overwhelming. So one of the things I do as a leadership coach and as I'm working with my clients is to find out, are you an introvert or an extrovert? So that I therefore can modify my behavior so that I fit more into where they are. And I'm always looking for new ways to adapt and adjust. So, for those of us that are extroverts listening, can you leave us with at least one tip or something that we can utilize to help us not offend introverts while still being authentic?
Absolutely. The biggest fear of an introvert is being surprised in the moment. So if you can give them a picture of the road that's coming up and just a little forewarning, we're going to turn left in a minute, then they'll know to brace themselves. And so that's even the tactic I use. The strength of it is I give them a framework to follow so they can go step by step by step, and they're not having to figure out in the moment. Their anxiety is that something is going to surprise them in the moment, that they're like, and they're going to freeze. That's the fear. And so if you can give them a little forewarning, and like, here's on our show not too long ago, even for meetings, if you sent out an agenda for the meeting that was, here's what we'll be talking about, think about these questions. Forewarning, that's how you'll bring an introvert out, because they just don't want to be surprised in the moment.
Well, Todd, thank you so much. And I appreciate that because I do think it's important that we're able to get their engagement and give them time to think and process beforehand, because that's really what they need, is that time to process. And even when you're giving feedback, good news, bad news, they need time to process that feedback. So they may not respond immediately, but it's not necessarily personal. It's just that they need that time to gather themselves, in terms of moving forward. You know what, Todd? I'm never, ever disappointed when we have a conversation. And I am always so happy to get your insights and the things that you're able to provide to help us to continue to ignite our communications and to understand what all of those elements mean. I want to thank you so much for being on this show and giving our audience practical tips to move forward. Thank you.
Absolutely. I rewrote my mission statement here recently, and that mission statement is more Vicki. So I love the show. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it.
Investing in real estate doesn't have to be a pipe dream, but how to find, analyze, renovate, finance investment properties without getting ripped off. My name's Andrew Glisson. In 4 short years, me and my team built a portfolio of 200 rental properties in multiple cities as a hobby while working full-time. We took all of that experience and built a mentorship program called the Victory Strategy to unlock every step of investing in real estate. If that sounds like the opportunity you've been waiting for, look us up at thevictorystrategy.com.
How would you like to go on a 5-star vacation for just $99? We're talking about the quality of a Westgate resort for $99. Not for one night, but for 3 fantastic nights at one of their luxurious destinations across the United States. And you'll even get a free $100 Visa gift card just for making a reservation. We've got some of the choicest destinations that you'll love in the United States that you can choose from for just $99 for a 3-night stay. Take your family, take a special loved one, but get away. Go on vacation vacation with Westgate Resorts. Call now to make a reservation for just $99 and you get a free $100 Visa gift card. Call Westgate right now and book your vacation. Here's the number.
Call 877-930-3491. That's 877-930-3491. Again, 877-930-3491.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Hi, I'm Vicki Wright Hamilton, and welcome to another segment of Ignite. Ready to spark your passion and fuel your leadership journey. This is where ambition meets action and transformation begins. Let's light the fire and keep it burning. And today, we have a great guest who's definitely going to ignite your fire. I promise you do not want to miss this segment. Please welcome Deirdre Breckenridge, who is a marketing and PR expert. Welcome, Deirdre.
Thank you, Vicki. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. And thank you so much for joining on the show, because I know you got a lot of fire to give to our constituents that are going to be listening to this episode.
Well, I appreciate that.
No problems. Get started. You know, we talk a lot about communication and storytelling. Can you give our audience a little bit about what is storytelling? What does it really mean? And how do we do it?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, but storytelling is your way of showing up and being human. It's sharing a part of yourself, your brand, or maybe your company. And I think that the best stories come from the heart and making that strong connection with the people that you're trying to reach. So that's definitely the first part of storytelling.
So, how do you recommend someone get started with that? You know, a lot of times we'll say, oh, well, my story, what does it mean? Nobody really wants to hear about me. So, how do you make a story inviting? How do you make it so that people go, I want to learn more about that?
Well, sometimes it's a matter of understanding your own story, pulling out the best parts of it. And sometimes you need someone else to help you do that. You can share and get some feedback, but then it's making your passion connection with somebody else's passion. In other words, you want to take your story and bring it to the people who need to hear it. And the only way to do that is really to be listening and to tuning in. And if you're on social media, then there are tools that help you to listen, to say, oh, now I know who needs my story. And that creates the impact.
Now you said something that's really inviting, because we all talk about the use of social media. Can you share with us some of those tools and some of the best practices in terms of using social media to do that?
Well, sometimes I just go out there and listen. I've written books in the past, and I used to be on Twitter. Now it's X, but I would use some tools as a way to aggregate conversations. to find out what people were saying. And some of those tools could be as simple as a talk walker search. It could be Brand Watch, which is sophisticated monitoring. It could be a tool called Mention, where you put in keywords or phrases and you can see what people are saying around that. So I always wanted to go into different communities. You could do it on LinkedIn, you can do it on Facebook, and I'm sure on Instagram, just to see what do people care about. Because if there's similarities between what you want to share and what they care about, that's a point of passion that intersects and gives you a reason to be there to share.
I like the fact you gave some tools. I'm gonna take those tools and start using some of them myself. I
Even
think
Google Alerts, even you can use Google Alerts as a tool to be able to
okay.
understand what's being shared out there, especially about you. You can search yourself.
Yeah, I've done enough about searching on myself, but it's all that market research, taking the time to do it and getting that information. And it's always helpful when you have people who can share what tools they use, the outcomes they're receiving, how beneficial it is to them, so that that it's like, yeah, I should try this one versus that one. So I really appreciate, those tips, because it does help us continue to move forward. So, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, even something as simple about learning how people view you, taking take your website and scrape all the words off of it and put it into a tool. It's a word art tool, and create a word cloud. And then maybe go and take your LinkedIn recommendations and take all the words that people say about you, use the same tool, create a word cloud. Ask your customers to give you 3 words about your brand, and then take all those words and make a word cloud and look at the 3 clouds and say, what are the similarities? What matches? And then even build stories around that.
You know what? I've never even thought about that before. And I have a lot of recommendations out there, and I never thought about, is there a tool to go and scrape it and tell me, what those similarities are. I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. See, this is why we do this. We learn something every single day, and I'm a continuous
Good.
learner. So this is
Me
so
too.
exciting to me, igniting energy about, okay, now I gotta, hey, after I do this show, I gotta go do this on my own business. Let's go make that happen.
Yes, that's good.
I really appreciate that. Because I think about, we could actually do even blogs off of that, or think about content we want to share, in terms of understanding what that means.
Absolutely. So once you see some of the common themes around what your brand looks like, what people associate you with, where your expertise is, you then see buckets of content can form. And that's where, yes, write those blog posts, do that LinkedIn newsletter, and stick with those topics. Maybe go on some podcasts and talk about your themes. That's all your storytelling, and it's consistent, and people start to recognize you for those topics.
That's great advice. And let me ask you another question that I know a lot of times comes up, when you're beginning to talk about, and you mentioned the word podcast, and really understanding what's a good one, what's a bad one, which one should I get on, and which one shouldn't I? What questions should you ask before you actually get on a podcast to ensure that your storytelling, or the things that you want to offer, are really going to reach the masses, so you can get some benefit off of it?
Well, you want to make sure that you're aligned with the nature of the show, number one. So you want to be able to watch some episodes, see the host, the guests, find out, where do they distribute? Is it a live show? Is it recorded? Where will it live? Will it be on YouTube? Also ask, who is that audience? What do they care about? What are their titles? And the more that you can dig in and familiarize yourself with the way the host of the podcast shapes the format, that's going to help you to decide, is this a place for me, and do I feel comfortable? And will this help my brand?
That's great. That's great insights because I know that that's one of the things. And it used to be, oh, how many, and I know it matters how many people are watching and where they're watching and things like that, and people consume media so many different ways,
Yes, they
today
do.
and, and, and,
That
and
has
at different
changed.
hours.
Correct. And I do think there's something to be said. Sometimes it's not just the numbers. Numbers are vanity. You can have a podcast with millions of people who are downloading, but are they watching the whole podcast? And are you in the beginning or are you at the end? Maybe they're not even seeing you. Small, tight communities and loyal followers, those are podcasts that you want to look at. How tight is the podcaster with the community?
Wow. Wow. Okay. Now you bring up something. How tight is the podcaster with the community? How can I determine that? Are there some things that I can do? And I know I'm getting a little bit more tactical, but I know that as people are doing this, they're trying to figure out, say, what's step one, what's step two? Can we give them a little bit of how do I really make that connection? What do I do?
It's not easy. You have to do some digging, but you're looking for conversations in communities. So if you're in there listening, which means monitoring, searching, you're able to see, is the community asking the podcaster questions? Are followers on somebody's blog? Are they on their LinkedIn? Are they on their TikTok or Instagram? There's ways to be able to tell their level of engagement. And it is worth it because wherever you put your brand, it's an extension of your brand. So you just want to be sure to take those extra steps.
That's good information and allows us to understand how we make that alignment. And as we're talking about this and talking about our brand and putting it out there, I have one curious question that I know comes up all the time. We talk about branding and marketing and we talk about PR. Can you give us just a little bit of a difference between the marketing side and a PR and how we leverage PR when we're getting our stories out there?
That's always been, I don't want to say a challenge, but understanding there are differences between PR and marketing, but yet they need each other. And if you can think of it this way, when you look at public relations, that's your opportunity to have somebody else talking about you. And that's where all the editorial and the media comes in. Or even now today, your customers and their testimonials out there on social media. You're not paying anybody to speak on your behalf, but they're sharing just because they trust and they're adding credibility to your brand. On the marketing side, it's more the promotion, the advertising, the way we're paying influencers. That's all to drive business and leads and sales, although public relations can help and is a part of that puzzle. And when you balance PR and marketing and they're on the same page, that helps your branding because then what the marketers are doing and how the PR people are supporting the brand, it's all consistent and you look like the same brand no matter where you are.
Thanks so much for that, Deirdre. We're going to take a station break. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. Stay and hold on. We'll be right back.
Investing in real estate doesn't have to be a pipe dream. But how do you find, analyze, renovate, finance investment properties without getting ripped off? My name's Andrew Glisson. In 4 short years, me and my team built a portfolio of 200 rental properties in multiple cities as a hobby while working full-time. We took all of that experience and built a mentorship program called the Victory Strategy to unlock every step of investing in real estate. If that sounds like the opportunity you've been waiting for, look us up at thevictorystrategy.com.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Well, here's a great idea. Donate your car now to help local veterans in your area. Yes, just make one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program. Within a few days, we'll come and remove your car for free. You can donate any car in any condition. We'll use our vast network to sell it. The proceeds raised go to help local veterans and their families. And you get a tax deduction. And all you need to do is make this free call. Clean your yard up, get rid of an old car, and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now. Book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Car Donation Program now.
Llama a tu amigo Trip Amigo. Una llamada a Trip Amigo te consigue el billete más barato a cualquier destino. Solo dinos a dónde quieres ir y Trip Amigo busca entre cientos de miles de ofertas disponibles en billetes aéreos y hospedaje también. Nuestros clientes ahorran hasta el 75% en las tarifas aéreas y reservaciones de hoteles. Llama ahora mismo. Tu amigo Trip Amigo te consigue los mejores precios de billetes aéreos y hotel.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-367-1753. That's 800-367-1753.
Welcome back. And thanks so much, Deirdre, for that. I'm telling you, you are just dropping one nugget after another. The fire is burning, 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 and allowing us to truly transform. You know, as I think about, as I was reading a lot about what you're doing, and I just love something that you have created and developed. And it sparked my interest. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to share this with my audience. You have this model called FEEL. What is FEEL?
FEEL is a communication model that came out of a passion project. And it's something that helped me through a period of grieving. It comes from a sad story. My stepdaughter passed away. And when that happened, I really wanted to understand what millennials were thinking and feeling. She was 24 years old. And the more that I spoke with millennials to understand, what do you want in your relationships? What do you expect from the people around you? What do you expect from business professionals, leaders? I got all of these stories, Vicki. And at the end of the day, after 2 years of this project, I started placing the stories into buckets. And it spelled the word FEEL, which stands for face fears, engage with empathy, use ethics and good judgment, and unleash your love. And if you think about it, how do you have a relationship if you don't feel? So that's where it comes from.
Wow. That is, you know, first of all, let me give you my condolences. I am so sorry.
Thank you.
You know, losing a child in a family is just, it's horrendous. And so you know, I'm sorry that you had to face those times, but we know she lives with you as times go on.
Yes.
And you know, the fact that you built something that you're talking about, that you went to millennials and you wanted to understand as you were going through this process. I think the thing that that's so important is you're helping others to understand another generation. And millennials had gotten bad raps for so long, old things have been given to them, and et cetera, in terms of those behaviors that are there. But what I'd love to understand is once you develop this model, how do you help others to apply it? What do we do to apply this model in terms of helping ourselves to feel?
Well, I think applying the model means facing your own fears, number one. What is it that holds you back? What is the limiting beliefs? What is it that makes you have a knee-jerk reaction? And recognizing what stops you from furthering a conversation and understanding somebody else's perspective. So that's the fears part. And there are a number of questions that you can ask to get past that, just so you can have a better conversation. When it comes to the empathy, I think that starts with our ability to listen and for people to tune in and say, am I fully present here? I do a little test with my executives. I say, I want you to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose and feel the air. And after you do that a little bit, open your eyes. And what do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you feel? And that tunes you in. And okay, now you're ready to listen and learning active listening. The ethics, I think that you have to live your values. What do you stand for? Are you upholding those values in your company? And can you state your values in 30 seconds or less? That's a little test. And on the love part, I want to just key into something you said, Vicki, where millennials get a bad rap. You hear so often, oh, it's handed to them. They're lazy. No, they're not. You have to meet their passion, especially in the workplace. And if you can unleash the love like they do, they're on board and they're going to take it the distance with you.
Wow. Wow. I think there's so many leaders that really need to hear that message,
Thank
as
you.
we continue to move forward. And I appreciate the fact that you have developed this model, to make to help others as they're continuing to move forward. So can you I want to talk a bit about the communications process, a little bit about how we go through that process. And from your experience and expertise, any tips or tricks that you can provide for enhancing that communication and moving it?
Sure. Well, that's one of my favorite questions. So thank you for asking, because I boiled down igniting your communication into 4 C's. It's very simple. You first have to be calm, to get clear, to then be concise, to be confident, to have confident communication. And it's not just your confidence and how you show up and deliver confidence and communication, but the confidence that people have in you. And those 4 C's, they matter. And I'm happy to talk about any of them.
Well, sure. Why don't you share a little bit about each? Share a
Okay.
little bit about each. I mean, that, 4 C's, I'm sitting here going, oh my goodness. Sure, share a little bit. I'm sure the audience would love to hear more.
Thank you. Well, the first C, calm, it comes down to your brain and the way you breathe. Because if you're belly breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, that's maximum benefit to major organs, including your brain. And when you breathe properly, you're calm and you can handle anything. Because if you think about it, how do you ignite communication and make that great connection if you're all over the place because you're not calm? So step number 1, check in on your breathing and you're going to relax. Step number 2 is to get clear, but it goes beyond the words you're using. It's the clarity and crispness in your voice. How do you sound? Are you modulating your pitch? Do you hit the highs when you're excited? Do you hit the lows when you want to say something important? What's your tone? How do you emphasize when you speak? Your voice matters. So that's the clear. The concise, are you verbally fluent and using intentional words? So are you sharing what you want when you want to say it? And it's tight because you're creating vivid pictures in somebody's mind when you speak. And every word is worth $10. So you don't have a word salad. And then the last part is confident, which is in your delivery. When you can align your vocal cues, your verbal cues with your body language, everything flows. You have a presence, you have that posture, that way of delivery that says, I'm completely in my communications flow, and people have confidence.
So what do you recommend for people to do to gain these skills? I mean, understanding voice inflection, understanding intentionality, being able to have the right tone at the right time. Do we need voice training? How do you get this? What do you do if you're not sure in your delivery?
Some people do need voice training, and some people incorporate it into what I call an influential communications training program. So I use technology, and there's technology out there that you can use that analyzes your voice. I use a great tool. It's called Voice Analyst. And when you speak on the tool, it shows you how you're modulating. It shows you your volumes, your peaks, your highs, your lows. It really informs you about your voice so that you can make changes. But you can't make your voice sound good if you're not calm and breathing properly. So I highly recommend practicing the belly breathing and using breathing techniques. Getting concise is also what I call testing around verbal fluency. There is an FAS test that I give all of my executives, and FAS, it's just letters, and it's your ability to share in 60 seconds. How many words can you say that start with the letter S or F? Or any letter really that you want to choose. So those are some of the ways that I help professionals to learn more simply about their voice or getting to concise and verbal fluency.
Wow. This is so exciting to me, and I'm so invigorated because as a person who has always struggled from the perspective of being my authentic self, of having lots of passion and joy. And I know that I work really, really hard not to offend people because I am excited and because I do love what I do. I love life. I love where I am, every experience. You go through trials and tribulations, but they make you stronger. When you can serve others and to see them grow and develop. But I struggle a lot because I really want to make sure I don't offend, right? That I am being calm, I'm being confident, I'm being authentic, but I'm not offending. And that balance, has been really, really hard, but I continue to work at it all the time.
Well, just the fact that you work at it and your awareness, that's what helps you to keep the balance. I also read body language, and I can't help but reading all the time. You have passion and energy, and it comes through. I see it in your facial expressions. Your hand movements are on point. So your gestures are where they should be. You're in your flow, Vicki. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And I think your awareness is something that I hope more people will have out there. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, thank you, Deirdre. And I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. If someone wants to get in touch with you, can you tell them how quickly?
Yes, sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn, and you can also email me at Deirdre@pureperformancecom with 2 M's.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Can't wait until we have the next Ignite show. See you soon.
Thank you.
Investing in real estate doesn't have to be a pipe dream. But how do you find, analyze, renovate, finance investment properties without getting ripped off? My name's Andrew Glisson. In 4 short years, me and my team built a portfolio of 200 rental properties in multiple cities as a hobby while working full-time. We took all of that experience and built a mentorship program called the Victory Strategy to unlock every step of investing in real estate. If that sounds like the opportunity you've been waiting for, look us up at thevictorystrategy.com.
What if you could make a free phone call and reduce your car payment by as much as $83 a month? Right now, you could be paying as high as 20% interest.